Hey everybody, I'm Lady Breland, and I pay $15 for my World of Warcraft addiction so you don't have to. Welcome to Learn to Play Let's Play with Motekke. So I finally got over my issues, and unfortunately I lost a video in the process. So to recap we're going to have to go across this expanse that I just showed you on the screen. And we're going to be helping people who got into trouble when the river flooded or something like that. Because the poor guy couldn't use his telescope, and I think the issue with my last video is when you use his telescope it shows a cinematic, and I think while recording, the WoW recording devices just couldn't handle it. So anyway, we're going to be going out into the wet shelf over on the west side of Durotar, and we're going to be rescuing people. And by rescuing people, I'm pretty sure we're going to be killing shit for people. Anyway, so with that out of the way, I'm going to talk to you today about raid awareness. So this is actually a big issue as you get higher in levels, and I got a text message. Anyway, this hits a big deal as you get to higher levels, and it's especially important for a healer to be aware of everything that's going on around them. It's sometimes very hard to do, especially as a melee DPS. So if you're just starting to play World of Warcraft, I suggest you do a ranged DPS, like unfortunately the Hunter or the Mage is often pretty good. You could do a Druid. Druids have a lot of versatility, and you could always be a Boomkin, because that's fun. And, but regardless, being a little bit of range kind of helps you see the fight, and lets you see what's going on with all of the players, and that's very, very important for healing. And one of the reasons that Hunters get a bad rap is because it's true they are one of the easiest classes to play and one of the easiest classes to start with. In fact, I started with one. Not because I was told it was easy, but because I really liked the idea of having like a white lion attacking things for me. Like, roar, I'm a lion, om nom nom. That was really what got me into being a hunter. But, you know, you start like that because you do have the pet to protect you, and it's very forgiving. You can make a lot of mistakes. Well, unfortunately, new players often don't have raid awareness, and they aren't able to pay attention. And now we're going to be killing pig people, by the way. I hate these guys. I hate pig people. I don't like anything about these guys. They make weird noises like, but I can't make the noise, but I really hate these guys. Quillboars, yeah, they suck. They're worse than kobolds or even trogs, and I hate trogs. But they're your generic humanoid/animal creature that's fucking everything up for the people you're supposed to be, quote, helping. Anyway, back to raid awareness. So, where was I? Oh, hunters. You know, new players often don't know to look around them, and that's something actually a lot of players, even the more experienced players, can forget to do sometimes, is being aware of everything that's going on in the fight around you. So, from a hunter's perspective, for example, the hunter does have a lot of crowd control, which means that they can control what creature goes where, how it's attacking. For example, we can turn off the enrage timer on some things with that trank shot. It's just, you know, a lot of work to be able to, for example, the Lich King fight. When you're battling the Lich King, not only in the first round, you have to, you know, be attacking the Lich King because, you know, he's the big bad, but there are also some spawns that come up, and when they enrage, they deal a lot of damage. And, you know, a hunter needs to be able to see that it's enraged, turn, trank shot it, and turn right back to the Lich King and continue to fight, is one of the best examples from a hunter that I can tell you about. And I've seen a lot of hunters who are incapable of taking their eyes off the prize of the Lich King to do that. And when you don't do that, it's a burden on the rest of the party, and people get mad and you get kicked. Anyway, so the other big deal with raid awareness is, for healers especially, you need to be aware of everybody in your party. Now, when we start with Motekke and with the other healers that I have, I'm actually leveling all my other healers up to 15 without doing Let's Plays, because this has become a veritable pain in the ass to do this for you guys. I mean, it's really, really hard for me to talk and quest, and right now I'm recording my voice after I've quested, but still, it's a real pain in the ass. So I'd rather just run these dungeons and have a clip of me doing the dungeon, and you can hear me candidly, And then I'm going to do the dungeon where I'm actually explaining to you how to heal each fight and what to pay attention for in each dungeon. Again, that raid awareness. Healers need to know these dungeons. And tanks do too, but tanks are hopeless. So tanks, need to be aware of the threat of their players around them. They need to be aware that the threat on them needs to be important at all times. Like, they need to have all the monsters, all the baddies on them at all times. If a DPS pulls and you're not paying attention, that's an issue. That's a burden on the healer. If the healer pulls, then you are in deep shit. You need to pull it off the healer as soon as possible. Or if something is padding or pathing, you need to be aware of that, and you need to compensate for it by avoiding it thusly. Anyhow, back to healing. So healers need to be aware of 4 main things. 1, the life of their tank. As you're going to find out as we do these 5-man dungeons, the life of your tank is very, very important. They are basically the shield in which you are not dying. And there are lots of cases, and I've healed lots of times, where we've had, say a pally tank. The tank accidentally goes down. My fault, their fault, doesn't matter, they went down. But, DPS sometimes are able to pick up the slack. Sometimes there are DPS who can tank, or there are DPS who, can kite like a hunter, or there are just DPS who can just handle it. And sometimes things go over well, but typically you need to your tank is your main focus. And your second focus is your DPS. You have 3 DPS in the 5-man dungeon, and you need to be keeping an eye on them. You need to kind of know, oh, did that warrior pull? Oh, is that mage not being careful? Oh, is that warlock life tapping? If a warlock's life tapping, you need to go ahead, and if you're not in combat when the warlock is life tapping, go ahead and top him off before you go into the next pull. Locks really appreciate that. And the same thing, you need to be aware of their pets too. So if a lock pet or a hunter pet or a mage pet for the most part, if they're taking a little bit of damage, toss them a hot every once in a while. Give them a little bit of love. DPS are not getting a lot of love from Blizzard or their fellow players right now, and every once in a while to see a healer who knows to pop a heal onto a warlock or onto a hunter pet, that's really appreciated, so you always be able to do that. The third thing you need to be keeping an eye on is your health. So threat in WoW, if you have no other interface but WoW itself. Oh, lag. There was some lag going on my game. The server I played on, I was actually recording this during peak hours, which was probably a bad idea. Usually I record this late at night or early in the morning when no one's playing the game. Anyway, you see at the top of your screen around your face and your health bar and shit, it turns red when you have threat. It'll turn orange when you have partial threat, and it'll turn yellow when you're starting to get high. And as a healer, it's very important that you keep an eye on that. If your tank isn't doing their job right, your heals are going to be more threatening to the NPCs than he is. So you've always got to be careful of that. If things are hitting you, you need to, if you can, break casting, run to the tank, and hope that the tank typically has an AoE threat on the ground. See if, like, consecration, run to it and see if that'll pull those off of you. You need to be aware of that. And the other thing you need to be aware of as a healer, of course, if you're taking damage, you need to top yourself off. So if the tank is full for now, top yourself off real quick with something fast and go back to the tank. And I know that's really hard because if you're taking damage, typically the tank is too, and that gets pretty difficult. And the other thing you need to be aware of, healer health-wise, is where you set yourself up. Healers like to find a place to stand and not get hit, try to stay out of the fight. Well, you want to make sure that you're not standing in a place where another group of mobs can see you. If they're pathing, or padding, as we like to call it, if they're doing that, you need to be aware of that. You need to stay out of their line of sight, or away from them enough that they don't notice you. That's a pretty big deal. You don't want to accidentally pull something and add to your woes and everybody else's woes. Most of the time when I'm healing, when you're watching these videos, because we're getting pretty close here with Motekke, look at where I'm standing. Look at how for example, in Scarlet Monastery, I like to get into corners where I can see most of the room. But there's no one behind me, and Scarlet Monastery is well known for having knockbacks. So you want to, kind of get into a place where it can't knock you back far enough for you to have to actually stand back up. It lowers your downtime when you're being interrupted in these dungeons. The last thing you need to keep an eye on is the fight itself. You need to see, are they moving? Is there a pathing thing coming that maybe the tank didn't see? What do the mobs look like around it? For example, in not Mauradon, Dire Maul. In Dire Maul, there's a boss. There are several bosses actually, these giant ogres, and they will call for help. And if your tank if you haven't cleared the area, or if your tank hasn't pulled the guy far enough away from the other mobs, they'll get actually pulled to you. And the issue there now is not only do you have a boss to be beating, you have 3 or 4 other ads now that are beating on your tank. So you need to be aware of this stuff oncoming so you can go ahead and compensate for it. And you'll notice, especially if you level via dungeoning, which is what all of my Let's Play healing is leveled via dungeon, you're going to see, and you're definitely going to hear me complain quite a bit about tanks. That's just kind of how it goes. Sometimes they don't pay attention, sometimes they don't know, and that just always can be an issue. DPS, they don't know, and it's fine if they don't know as long as they don't F up. So lastly, I'm running out of time here. I only have about a minute left, so let me recap about what I've actually been doing with Motekke. I've been killing these Quillboars for the crazy guy who wants all Quillboar to die for some reason. Like, raw Quillboar, they are evil, I'm gonna rage, raw. Oh, by the way, we hit level 9, yay, raw Quillboar. Which, I'm cool with that. I don't like Quillboar, nobody likes Quillboar, but this guy is effing crazy about Quillboar. That's a little interesting. So, we're gonna run back up to crazy guy who wants to kill Quillboar and turn that in, and I believe he gives us a nice item, but, and the thing I'm refreshing, actually, talk about that, is called Lightning Shield, and as a healer you're going to get another one called Water Shield, and it increases your passive mana regen, and every time you get hit it absorbs Water Shield and gives you base mana back, which is great, so you got to keep that up at all times. The Lightning Shield that I've got up right now actually just does a little bit of damage per hit, per orb, like Thorns with the Druid. Anyway, so run up here to, what's his face? Ragaron or whatever he is. Yeah. But that's all our time for today, actually. And I hope you enjoyed listening, and give me some, comments and tell me if you like this new theory that we're going on. So I hope you all have a good evening, and I will see you all later this week. Cheers.